Gentlemen, according to Verizon time, the hour of 7 o'clock is upon us. I would like to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. We have a flag in two places, so you can face the direction you need. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I would like to welcome you all here tonight. My name is Bob Clay. I'm the town moderator, and I would draw your attention to pages 98 through 100 in your town report, which are the rules of the moderator for the meetings. I would request that anybody who wishes to address step up to the microphone, announce their name after you've been recognized, and I will insist that all conversations go through the chair. There will not be any running conversations between any members of the community and the board unless they go through me. All right, other information I'd like to share with you tonight is I have the results of your elections yesterday, which in 38 years of working in the polls was the lowest turnout I have ever seen. There were 277 votes cast. 4 selectmen: William Bolton, 224, Neil McIver, 161, Deborah Gauthier, 96, and 1 write-in for Jenny Thibault, and I declare William Bolton and Neil McIver duly elected. Selectmen for the one-year term: Michael Ahern, 219 votes, 1 write-in for Neil McIver. They wanted him to have 2 seats. And I declare Michael Ahern duly elected. For town clerk, Karen Freitas, 261 votes. For tax collector, Linda Buffington, 264 votes. For library trustee, A. Joan Bowers, 248 votes. And I declare all of those people duly elected. For trustee of the cemetery, there was a write-in for Jenny Thibault with 21 votes, and I declare her duly elected. For trustee of trust fund, there were 2 write-ins for Ted Garrity and 2 write-ins for Ken Koshin, and that's up for the selectmen to decide from here. Your school district ballot: for moderator, Quentin Blaine, 254, 1 write-in for John Boyle. School district treasurer, Jane Clay, 253 votes. School district clerk, Jane Clay, 251 votes. School board member for 1 year, Michael Bullock, 237 votes. And 2 or 3 write-ins, and they were declared the winners of their uncontested races. For the Pemmy-Baker Regional School District, I only have the results of Plymouth's votes. I do not have the votes for the full SAU. I will let you know how Plymouth voted. Quentin Blaine, moderator, 252, 1 write-in. School board member from Holderness, Sam Brickley, 200, with 2 write-ins. School board member from from Plymouth, Tim Narrow, 237, and 7 write-ins. For a school board member from Thornton, Melinda Johnson, 200 votes, no write-ins. School board member from Thornton, Walter Joyce, 201 votes, 1 write-in. School board member from Wentworth, Bernice Sullivan, 188 votes with 2 write-ins. For the articles on the Pemmy-Baker warrant, Article 1, yes, 242, no, 17. Article 2, yes, 231, no, 23. Article 3, yes, 228. Article no, 2. Article 4, yes, 218. Article no, 35. And Article 5, yes, 205, no, 49. The only one I do not have in front of me, I can tell you that both of the zoning articles passed. I just don't have the numbers in front of me. All right, are we ready to go? No. I tell my kids at school I have super hearing. You know? That's how I know what's going on in my classroom. You are hereby to the inhabitants of the town of Plymouth, County of Grafton, State of New Hampshire, qualified to vote in town affairs. You are hereby notified to meet at Plymouth Elementary School in Plymouth on Wednesday, the 9th of March at 7 o'clock in the afternoon for the deliberative session of the town meeting, at which time action will be taken upon the remaining articles. So for the deliberative session, I would like to entertain a motion that we take the articles one at a time. Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Ready for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary-minded, nay. It's a vote in the affirmative. Now, one little housekeeping. Is there anybody here who is not a resident of Plymouth? Okay? When votes are made, I expect you to be quiet. As I ask for vote, I expect people who are voting to hold up the red card to signify that they are a voting member from the town of Plymouth. Also, we have our fruit-flavored little yes and no ballots. You put the one that you want in, and you get to eat the other one and see what flavor it is. But we will be using these for some articles tonight. The ballot boxes will be there, and we'll be dealing with them as we need to for the night. Okay, to start Article 3. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate a sum of $2 million gross budget for the capital improvements, public works projects, and equipment purchases outlined in the materials presented by the selectmen at the public hearing on the bond, and to authorize the issuance of not more than $2 million in bonds, notes, or loans in accordance with the Municipal Finance Act, RSA 33, and to authorize the Board of Selectmen to issue and negotiate such bonds or notes and determine the rate of interest thereon. And further, raise and appropriate an additional sum of $134,500 for the first year's payment of the bond notes. Selectmen recommend this. It is also a two-thirds ballot issue. And does the Budget Committee have any comment on this? The Budget Committee recommends, and I will recognize Mr. Conklin. Yes. First, I need a motion. Who's moving it from the... Moved. Is there a second? Second. Moved and seconded. Now I will recognize Mr. Conklin.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. As most of you know, we have worked pretty hard to keep the budget level funded for a number of years, and our former fearless leader, Val Scarborough, has in the past mentioned at these meetings that at some point we were going to have to bite the bullet a little bit and raise some money or spend some money to fix some infrastructure issues that we have. And so in the course of the last several months, this select board, with the advice to a large extent of Mr. Freitas, has come to the conclusion unanimously that it would make sense for the town to borrow $2 million primarily or basically for those items that you see listed on the little brochure that we prepared. We have discussed this at some considerable length and feel that this is a good move at this time. One of the things that's going on, of course, is that bank interest rates are at an historical low rate. We have discussed this with several banks and don't have any written commitment at this point, but anticipate that we'll have a fixed rate loan in the range of 3%, which is about the going rate for a municipal type of loan right now. Am I not speaking loudly enough?
You'll be louder if you're talking into it.
Okay. I don't want to be too loud. Well, it falls by itself, Mr. Moderator.
You're so far away from us this year.
Oh, sorry. Maybe we should move the chairs up or the table up. So you can see from the list basically what we have in mind, but of course there are a number of roads that haven't been touched in years that have needed attention for a long time, and we're hoping to be able to get to some of those. An issue that has arisen recently that we're not sure about yet is that Water and Sewer is planning to replace the water and sewer lines all the way from Highland Street down through South Main Street and up Warren Street up Warren Street a block or so, I think. And they want us to separate out any remaining drainage lines that are still going into the sewer system. And we're not sure about how that relationship will work, how much work is involved, but it seems likely that if they go ahead with their project, we are going to be spending some money on that, but we don't know how much yet. And if we did do that, it may take away from what we're sort of looking at for road work here, but that's another thing that it may very well come up in the near future. The question has been raised by several of us and others about the Northern Pass project, which we understand as of now they are planning to put right down Main Street, and we certainly wouldn't want to tear up Main Street for the water and sewer and then have them tear it up for their power line. So there would be, none of this is a done deal, but I just want to anticipate that question by addressing it and making folks aware that we know about that. But anybody who's been to the recycling center knows that there are repairs that need to be made there that have been neglected for years. The police department has done a fantastic job renovating and making the police department habitable, usable. They have redone the entire dispatch center and added on an office space in the back with, I believe, leftover grant funds from the dispatch center, essentially. Fire department, similarly, they've moved into the house, which we purchased 1.5 years, 2 years ago, mostly for residential purposes. We would like to put some money into the fire station. We don't know exactly how or where, but there is now unused space in there and a possible need for an additional bay or other upgrades there. So that's another thing that requires some attention. Am I forgetting anything major there? I could look at well, you can all look at the list, but that's the idea. We would like to prioritize some of these things and be able to spend up to $2 million. Now, we don't anticipate, borrowing it all at once or spending it all at once, but having it available. So if we were going to do a road in a couple of months, we might take $150,000 or whatever it took. So this is not etched in stone when this is going to happen or how, but $2 million would be the maximum drawdown on the loan, basically. Anything I forgot? And with that, Mr. Moderator?
Discussion? Step to the microphone, please.
Bill Hool. I've addressed the Select Board on this bond issue in the public hearings that were held in January. But for the benefit of the group amongst us this evening, I want to state what my position is with regard to this bond. I do support the bonding as proposed, with the caveat that the bonding or line of credit be used towards capital needs, infrastructure needs, for the most part, which have been neglected through the last 6-year period. We've deferred a lot of maintenance to our infrastructure that we're paying a higher price for to bring them into a state of suitable condition at this point in time, and this is a reasonable way to accomplish that. Having said that, I would also argue that going forward, the capital plan should be annually funded to anticipate our capital needs and our infrastructure needs, which has been neglected, as I suggested here, in the last 6 years. That plan was put in place for a purpose. It should have been sustained, and once this bond gets us back on track, I expect this board and succeeding boards will stick to that plan and adequately fund it for what we see as our realistic needs. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Mr. Sansucci.
Paul Sansucci. I concur with what Mr. Hool said, with the exception of a question. Do we have any idea how much money might be spent on diverting the storm drains on the south end of Main Street out of the sewer system into a separate system?
May I?
Yes, Mr. Conklin?
No, is the short answer. This is something that only came up to us. I mean, we became aware of the fact that they were planning to do this maybe 2 months ago. And we are looking forward to having our engineer and/or their engineer figure out just what's going on with these drains, because we don't really know.
Could I ask another question, please?
Anybody else wish to address before Mr. Sansucci asks another question? I'll give you a chance in a minute again, Paul. Mr. Tucker.
I just have a couple quick questions. Is the interest rate fixed? Will that vary throughout the 10 years?
What we're anticipating and what's been proposed to us is a fixed rate for the entire term of the loan.
It is fixed?
Yes.
Okay. Can I assume correctly that the blue items in the budget were capital items that were coming out of this?
Basically, I think that's correct, yeah.
I just would make an observation that some of those things don't look like capital items, repair of equipment and so forth and so on. I'd also ask a question. I understand we used to have capital reserve items where we set aside money. Someone says that's changed, that the DRA doesn't want you to do that anymore, and my question would be, how do they expect you to set aside money for these things?
Well, we still have the 1.2, 1.3 million in unreserved fund balance. Capital reserve. And we also have $400,000+ set aside for the final Highland Street improvement, all of which is above and beyond this. The 1.2 is what is recommended for us to keep, as a floating balance. I don't know what you call it exactly, but, keep aside. And we have that.
Okay.
I'm sorry, did you?
So,
Oh, Paul is telling me I'm wrong. Maybe Paul should address.
We still have 1.3 million approximately. Is that on?
Yes.
In capital reserves, John, the same amount that you had when you were selectman, minus the 700,000 that you had at that time for the ladder truck. So we still have just as much money in capital reserve. We have maintained the plan that Guy Brisson had put together, the format and everything. Nothing has changed. What's changed is the way it's called Gatsby, and it's way too much to get into tonight. No, the finance person could explain it to you at another time. The laws that have changed is instead of saving for every single dump truck at Highway Department, we save for heavy equipment. It's just how it gets lumped together. We still put the same money in. It's just not identified towards one piece of equipment, like the grader or the dump truck. Still being done. I have the different capital reserves. I can't remember. Highways around 225,000 that they have between their heavy equipment, light equipment lines in capital reserve. Recycling center has about $30-something thousand in capital reserve. It's still the same that we did before. It gets lumped together.
Okay.
Like at recycling center, they'll call it miscellaneous handling, material handling equipment instead of picking out individuals.
I've forgotten the terminology, but when you go to set the tax rate and you figure out how much you're going to keep in reserve,
Right.
And that's now over $1 million. Is that correct?
That's the 1.2.
Okay.
It's now called unreserved.
Yeah.
That's 1.2
Unreserved.
million.
And I applaud the selectmen for doing that, because when I was a selectman, oftentimes we had 150,000 or something like
Right.
that.
No, you still have over $1 million in capital reserve. You still have over $1 million in unreserved.
Oh, all right, thank you. By the way, I'd like to compliment whoever took the photograph or put the photograph on the town report. It's very nice.
okay. Mr. Sansucci, I didn't think he was going to ask 5 questions. I apologize to you that I didn't let you ask a second one.
That's quite all right. We have no idea how much money we're going to need to spend possibly on that. My concern is this bond going to be big enough for what they may have us do on the south end of Main Street? Are we going to be able to cover ourselves?
The bond did include drainage, but the drainage was going to be on Texas Hill and Reservoir. So we do have a good amount put inside that bond, but it would have to be moved from Reservoir and Texas Hill towards that. And we could always make up the difference next year. I know Mel's here. I doubt we would be getting into that construction job next year. But if we had to, at least there's enough in there to probably be well on our way to get us to that point. Earlier you asked, do we know how much? No, with the engineers are just looking at it. We've gotten an estimate from the water and sewer of $500,000. We've gotten an estimate from our engineer, the town's engineer, at $380,000. But until this summertime, when they start running cameras down those lines, we don't know how much.
Yeah, my biggest concern is we take the $2 million, if it's approved tonight, and we see it start to disappear real quickly away from the projects that really need to be done.
In all honesty, at this tax rate and the interest rate, a $4 million bond would be nice tonight, but it would have made the taxes go up. The task was to try to see how big of a bond we could get without making the taxes go up.
No, I know
$1 million,
some,
$1 million wasn't enough. $3 million starts to make the taxes go up.
well, there's some things that we need to do and some things we can put on.
And you got to realize that when we put this budget together, we hadn't known what the extent of the
Oh,
1910 infrastructure out on Main Street was. So,
Okay, thank you.
All right. Mr. Kent?
sorry.
Good evening. I'll start by saying I'm going to vote for your measure, but I am going to be a little critical. It seems we held down the tax rate and avoided some expenses that we should have probably incurred already. And therefore, we dug ourselves a little 6-year hole, if I understand what I've read. I would ask that the selectmen, while negotiating this, shorten the duration to 6 years. And the reason that I say that is the federal government is $19 trillion in debt because they did the same thing year after year after year. And I think this is a temptation that I don't want to see our board get into, where we borrow and we borrow and we borrow. It just keeps extending it out, and eventually our kids have to pay it, and that's not right. We incurred the expense. We should be paying. And I do believe pay-as-you-go is the best diet for us to be on monetarily. Thank you very much.
And I'm sorry I can't call you by your first name, but please come up to my...
Good evening, Deborah Groth here at 50 Russell Street.
I'm sorry. I did know that, too. I'm sorry.
That's so. Actually, I'm a little bit concerned with the request for a $2 million bond, a loan being taken out, because what I've been hearing this evening, and I've been asking questions also as well, is that we may do this and we may do that. There's no direct plan on what to do with the $2 million. We do need infrastructure change. I live on Russell Street. You could lose bodies in the potholes that we have there. Coming up to Highland Street, I'm sure that we have a lot of cars in this area that have issues because of the potholes. So we need to do something with the roads. But my question is, why is it that we do not have an actual plan for the $2 million instead of, well, we might do this and we might do that? Because I was at the meeting when the water department came. They're not even positive it's going to be done this summer. They're looking at still planning. There's no reason why this has to be into this year's budget. We can collaborate with them and put it off until we know definite numbers.
Yeah.
Okay.
May I?
Yes, Mr. Conklin?
That's all very true, and the sewer and water improvements are a perfect example of kind of the little issue we have, which is we were working on this long before the water and sewer thing came up, and now we're disclosing that that may be an issue too, which was not even foreseen. I mean, we don't want to do that. We have plenty of other things that have priority. And if I want to know what is a road repair priority, all I have to do is ask our highway supervisor. He will tell me. And if he has some money, he can take care of it. If that money gets diverted to something else because it has to be done immediately, then that may happen. But I would hope that the taxpayers here will trust the judgment of the board and its their department heads, to make these judgment calls as as the time comes to expend these funds.
So the 925...
You have a follow-up question?
I'm sorry.
No, I'll let you do a follow-up. I'm just saying, you have a follow-up question. Yes, okay, yeah.
Yes, sir. But the $925,000 that you have for highways, you're projecting and hoping to do some of these roads. But why isn't there actual figures together? Is there actual figures put together somewhere that we just don't have access to? Of what you're going to use the $925,000 for?
We don't know until they get bid. We can estimate. We can say, well, if Highland Street is going to be done from point A to point B, we think it might cost within some range, but until it's engineered and, put out to bid and we have a bid back, we don't know exactly.
Okay. Thank you.
Is there any further discussion? Yes, Mayor Elise.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I am here as a private citizen to speak in support of the bond issue. I think it's incumbent upon all of us to put our dollars into our infrastructure. And while I'm here, I thought if anybody wants to see what's in capital reserve, it's on page 27 in your town reports. Is $1,279,000. And the other thing I'd like to mention as the administrator for the Water and Sewer District is that last April, after our annual meeting, after your annual meeting, our superintendent, Jason Randall, and I met with the town administrator and Joe Fagnant and others and DOT, this is in April, to talk about the South Main Street project. So I just wanted to clarify that the district came forward with that proposed project almost a year ago. Thank you.
Is there any further discussion? Are you ready for the question? Okay, this is a 2/3 majority so that it is a ballot vote, and because it is a bond issue, the poll needs to be open for an hour. So if you will kindly take your lavender ticket off the top. And I'm going to use my teacher voice from here. So, the first ballot box here will be the ballot box that we will use for this. I will demonstrate that this ballot box is in fact empty.
There's an extra $100 for the town.
I know, we're always watching the budget.
And time is 7:27. The polls will be open for 1 hour.
That's how long the meeting is. And the DOT said, we're not going to have to fix it. That's all.
Yes, rip it in half and put it in the side you want.
This end of the table is non-residents. I said with your jacket and tie. All right.
I know.
Come on over.
Hi, how are you?
Yes. Okay. I will have them pull the mics close. No, thank you, because I need to know that.
Okay. Oh, it is. I went to the first year I lived there, and then my wife didn't have a kid. I'm like, okay. okay. It really isn't too bad. Have you ever been? No? Yeah. Sure. How are you? No, it's not that bad. I mean, it's like typical of this, you get a lot of bickering between people there, but the first year we lived in here, I was trying to get a new truck and they were telling everybody, I got some things they're trying to tell everybody else, well, there are holes and you need to put water in the one we have, right? And so, people are arguing about it. I'm like, did you not hear me get water in? Like, what is the thing?
All right, if you could kindly get your votes in and get seated, and we will try to go on with the rest of the meeting. So I would ask the selectmen, when they do address, please pull the microphone closer to them. I'm having people complain that they can't hear you with the microphone, so please be aware of that, select people. Article 4, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate a sum of $1,751,949 for fiscal year 16-17, general government expenses as follows. Salaries, fees, and expenses, Selectmen's Office, $448,440. Election registration, vital statistics, Town Clerk's Office, $182,447. Financial administration, $258,530. Reappraisal of property, $75,000. Contract services, legal and other, $175,050. Personal administration, $3,500. Planning and zoning, $126,009. Land use enforcement, $90,878. General government buildings, $74,000. Cemeteries, $45,818. Miscellaneous insurance, workers' comp, liability, and unemployment, $141,250. Emergency management, $22,000. Care of trees, $2,000. Debt services, landfill closure, $105,025. This amount to be offset by the amount of $16,000 from the perpetual care fund. If Article 3 passes, Article 4 will be reduced by $76,646. Selectmen recommend passage. How about the Budget Committee? Budget Committee recommends passage. Do I have a motion? Is there a second? Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Mr. Houle.
Thank you. This Article 4 carries a fairly large wage increment in it. And if you've seen the details in the line item breakout that you may have, that you had picked up as you came in this evening or earlier down at Town Hall, the wages in this package are grossly excessive to the environment that we've been in and that we're slowly creeping out of. The average wages for the last 6 years during this economic depressed period, as reported by the Federal Labor Board, as recently as reported in yesterday's Union Leader, wage increases, salary increases over this period of time have ranged in the order of 2% plus or minus, on the order of 25 basis points. That is not at all representative of what this town has done for its employees. Our employees are well paid. They all do remarkable jobs for the jobs they have and deserve every penny they're getting, but not in the sense of the raised year-over-year increases that they have gotten relative to the rest of the population. And I cite in particular the large number of elderly retired people that we have in this community. A large number of them, and I know this factually, as I was serving on a Grafton County Area Committee on Aging. I know Grafton County very well, and I know this town pretty well. A lot of them are surviving, or trying to survive, on $500 to $1,500 of Social Security. Social Security during this period of time has been next to nil. In fact, this year it was nil. You try and live on $500 to $1,500, cover your home costs, your food budget, your health cost, and all the other costs, not exclusive of taxes, and live on that kind of a budget. And I feel these unwarranted increases that we've been giving to our employees, and in particular in this budget here, are totally unwarranted. I would recommend an amendment to this article in the first line, salaries, fees, and expenses, from the figure $448,440, that it be reduced by $20,000 to $428,440. I would also
Whoa. Before you go any further, are you going to make more cuts out of that?
Yes.
Okay, I'll let you get it all together.
I would also propose to reduce the emergency management budget by $10,000 to $12,000 from its present $22,000. That is just a little bit of correction that can be made. The latter item, emergency management, has grown over the years to more than twice what it had been in earlier years. And in the first line that I reduced, that still provides for a very reasonable increase for those employees that the selectmen feel warrant an increase. Thank you.
So you want to put that in the form of a motion? Can you give me that as a written?
That is my amendment to this article.
So you want to make
That's
an
the
amendment to
motion.
this article. Your motion is to reduce the total by $30,000?
Correct.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded. I would like to have you write on a piece of paper what your amendment is, including all of the totals, so that I can present it to everybody. In the meantime, we'll discuss. Is there any discussion on this? Yes, Marylise.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I have a question. Mr. Hool referred to salary increases, but I don't know how much, what that means. Is there a percentage or something so that we would all know what he's objecting to?
Does the board have an answer?
In general, we have given 3% wage increases. There are a few complicating factors. One is that this fiscal year there are actually 53 paydays, and so that increases the budget for this year, and that's a factor that has to be taken into consideration. And there's been some considerable discussion about that. I think this has come up at prior meetings, but the fact of the matter is that every 5
Can you
or
pull the microphone closer to you, please?
sorry,
If I'm
Mr.
having difficulty hearing you, I'm sure others are.
Need I start over, or did everybody, I will speak louder, but did everybody hear me? Okay. Yeah. Well, what I was saying is that, yeah, we've got this 53rd payday, and it happens every 5 or 6 years, and it increases. So that's in there, and it's a little, you know, that I think that adds like $70,000 or something like that, in that neighborhood, right? Approximately $70,000, so. Does that answer your question? I got distracted.
It does, and I wonder if
Oh.
I could just now make a comment that, if it's okay.
Go ahead, yep.
I understand about the 53rd pay week, and I hope all the audience does. It does happen. I understand that. I heard today that there was some confusion about whether or not that actually did happen, but it does. And I know that will add a whole week's payroll amount to the salary lines, but I don't think 3% is exorbitant or too much, and so I would speak against the amendment.
Okay.
Thank you.
Valerie Scarborough, and I would also like to speak against the amendment, not only the amendment to the salary increases, but more specifically the amendment to the emergency management line. I can speak from my experience on the select board that because of Plymouth's exceptional level of emergency management, the town has gained grant money in the millions of dollars, and that $20,000 emergency management budget for the year doesn't even come close to making up for how much money we bring in because of the quality of our emergency management program. So I would also speak against the amendment.
Okay, before you say anything, Mr. Hool, I just want to address the issue of the 53 pay periods. And we had a determination from the State Department of Labor today. I will read you specifically what it says. Under state law, a salaried employee is going to receive a predetermined fixed amount of wages for each pay period that they perform any work. If no work is performed, no wage will be due. If the salaried employee works 53 pay periods instead of 52, he would then receive the extra week's pay. If you divide 365 by 7, you get 52 and 15/100ths. So every 6 years, 5-6 years, that extra half a day, day and a half ends up making a 53-week pay year. And that's the way it is, whether you like it or not. And a big portion of this money is that extra pay period in for the employees.
I dispute that. I've been there, done that, and we've not ever gone through the rationale that has been presented in this budget. There's one other point that I want to raise a question on with regard to salaries. The board at the public hearings, upon my questioning of one of the salary line items, that the select board had signed a extended year contract with our town administrator for his services. I question the legality of their having perpetrated and signed a contract of that nature with the town administrator for the reason that Plymouth historically has had at-will employment except for the union-represented employees. That employment negotiated agreement, which is the next article that will be under consideration, is the only contract that we have with employees and are obligated to fulfill. If they so desired to have an extended year contract with this town administrator, and it maybe is a good idea, they should have had a warrant in this warrant defining the terms of the contract and length of a contract, and let the townspeople vote on whether they want to approve that or deny that, because it's a change and the at-will policy of employees that are unrepresented.
Okay. Are you done speaking?
I am asking the question of the legality of the extended contract that they
Okay.
signed.
No, I was going to give them a chance to answer. You just hesitated like you had something more you wanted to say, and I wanted to give you a chance to get it all out. That's all, Mr. Hool. Yes. Select Board?
Mr. Moderator, we have recently signed not a 7-year, but a 5-year contract with Paul Freitas for his services as town administrator. We did this for a couple of reasons. One is that Paul wanted to have some job security for the last 5 or so years of his anticipated career. And in addition to that, we have seen town administrators change around here, and the town administrators who are being hired in other towns around here are getting more money than he is. It would be very easy for Paul to put himself on the market and get $100,000, $110,000, $120,000 somewhere else if he chose to. And we think it's very important that he stays here. And one of the reasons is he works all the time. He plows the roads if it's necessary. He works with the police if it's necessary. He's in here on weekend. It's unbelievable to me how much this man works. He is dedicated to this town, and I think we need him. Not only that, but he gets all kinds of grant money. He brings in these grants that do all kinds of things for us, and this is something that not everybody can do. So I feel blessed that we have him. I feel blessed every day to serve on this Board of Selectmen with really a leader who is able to administer the town government in such an effective fashion. So I think that we are fixed. We are set with our town administrator for the next 5 years, and I'm very happy about it. You asked whether or not it was legal.
Right.
I think it is. I mean, Elizabeth Caro had a contract with this town.
No,
Yeah,
she did not. No,
We have a copy of it.
and it's pretty common. I mean, lots of town administrators and other administrators. What about the SAU people? They all have contracts. It's very common.
the point that I tried to make, there's there's no reason to dispute the qualities and the service that the administrator has provided this town and will continue to provide this town. But if you're going to draw an extended contract with that employee, it should have been on this warrant, and the townspeople should vote on it just as they're going to vote on the union contract that's in this warrant. I don't dispute your notion about he earning what he is proposed to get. But till such time as this town meeting approves a multi-year contract, it should be a 1-year at-will contract.
Mr. Moderator?
Yes, Mr. Conklin.
I did not ask of the town's attorney, I don't think any of us asked if it was legal to enter into a long-term contract or an extended contract with Mr. Freitas, but our town council prepared and provided the contract that we signed with Paul. So he did not think it was illegal, or he wouldn't have given it to us. And he wouldn't have had a form in his computer waiting for us.
Mr. Moderator,
All right.
just one further comment.
One further, and then we're going to move on.
And this is that this board is unilaterally committing future boards to honor this contract, which I submit is not legal.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Halloran.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I try not to speak at these because I have my own troubles at about 8 different meetings. But Mr. Conklin brought up the SAU and the authority that boards have. We do have a written opinion from legal counsel that states that boards of selectmen, school boards have the authority under statute to enter into long-term contracts with employees. And I'd be happy to share that legal opinion with the board.
Thank you. Mr. Tucker?
I rise in support of the amendment. I'd just like to make a couple observations. I went back to the 2012-2013 budget, and the town employees have been getting wages around 4 to 5% every year. And in referring to what Mr. Houle said, the private sector has been getting much less than that, and I think it's 2% or less. The rate of inflation has been less than 2%. Historically, public employees usually got less money or lower salaries because they had more security, they had a better pension plan, and so forth. This has not been the case with our employees. And I would like to echo what Mr. Houle said. I certainly don't denigrate at all what our employees do for us. We appreciate it. We depend on them. But I think, I think going forward, and I think the chairman said the raises would be about 3%. Well, if that's true, I accept 3%. But when I look at this budget, they're not 3%. They come out to more than 3%. And by the way, every time we increase our salaries, we're increasing other costs too. Retirement, Social Security, and so forth. And I just found out, if we have an employee that makes $50,000 a year, it costs the town $80,000. And so that's what it does. Some communities are being crushed by pension funds. The biggest example is Detroit. It just about has, they had to declare bankruptcy. So if 3% is what you're giving an employees, I will accept that. But I think historically we've been very good to our employees, and this town just can't go on increasing the cost that we have. We have that limited tax base. And I see for Mr. Freitas that it's a 16% increase. I apologize, I didn't get to the budget committee meetings, but I did watch it on the Community Access Channel. And I think you said $7,000 of that raise was to bring him up to what other towns were making. I would ask you, what towns did you compare?
Yeah, you may answer that. Get closer to the mic.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Moderator. He's got to tell me every time.
I do. I mean, I feel like your mother, for crying out loud.
Oh, my mother doesn't want to hear that. We looked at a 2013 study of town administrator salaries in the towns. This particular list is the towns of Alton, Belmont, Farmington, Hopkinton, Litchfield, Newmarket, Peterborough, and Stratham. And the salaries ranged from a low of 86. Oh, well, I see an 86,700 here to 118. And the average was about 96. And this was for 2013. And it was on the basis of this information that we reevaluated what Paul was making, again at a time when we were concerned about retaining him. And it was those numbers that we used when we decided to raise his salary by $7,000. And that was in the spring of last year. And then he also got the 3%. It is 3%. If you're getting a higher number, I think it's that 53rd, that miserable 53rd week again. But he also got the 3% as of July 1st. And in our budget now, you'll see that his salary also reflects a subsequent year's 3% increase because his contract year is essentially a calendar year, and of course we're budgeting fiscal.
Okay, well, I had heard.
All right, go ahead. I have other people that want to talk, John, so.
I had heard that, and I guess I got bad information, that you compared them with towns like Meredith and Tuftonboro or other towns where they're
No,
right
no
on
lake
Lake
towns.
Winnipesaukee,
No.
where they have
No lake
very
towns.
wealthy towns and so forth.
Well, actually, Alton's on here.
All right. And let me just say, I know Paul works very hard, and I don't dispute that at all. But I will say, I don't think our town administrator should be plowing roads. Marylise, would you have plowed the roads?
Can I?
All right.
And I think, and you had said he didn't take a vacation. Well, I think in management circles now, you make your employees take their vacations. They're better off for taking their vacations.
I'll pass that along.
Okay. So Patrice?
Thank you.
Patrice Scott. I'd personally like to thank the Select Board for locking Paul into a contract for the next 5 years, because I think we'd be very hard-pressed to find a more dedicated public servant and one that gives us bang for our buck here in Plymouth. So I have no problem with what's presented, and I would just like to warn the people, if we make cuts in the manner that they're suggesting by this amendment, it disproportionately impacts certain salaries. So you have salaries, fees in the amount of $448,000. That represents only some of the salaries. So other positions won't be affected, and I really don't think that's fair. I really trust in the process that we have. I think the place for people to object and make fine-tuning of a salary in particular that bothers someone would be the budget committee and the budget hearings. And I would just like to say that I fully support what is presented us, and I thank the selectmen for their diligence in presenting something that they feel is affordable to the people of Plymouth.
You're all set? Okay, yes, go ahead, Mr. Conklin.
Mr. Freitas would like to address the emergency management director's pay.
I just want everybody here to be aware of, on the emergency management budget, I get that reimbursed every year too, by the feds. So that $22,000 has grown up to $22,000. If you look up at the top in this format, you see that $22,000 made $101,000 for the town.
Okay.
The higher you see that number go, the larger our reimbursement will be.
Okay. Is there any other discussion? All right, I have, Mr. Tucker, I'm really surprised somebody hasn't moved the question yet, but go ahead.
I'm sorry, did you say the figure you generally use to increase salaries was 3%?
Yes.
And, okay, that's all I wanted.
All right. All right, so I moved the question on the amendment, and the amendment was to reduce this article by some $30,000 and to make the gross amount $1,721,947. All those in favor of the amendment will signify by raising their card and saying aye. All of those opposed will raise their card and say nay. Nay. Okay, which brings us to the main article. And I'm not going to reread the main article. We're just going to vote on Article 4, because I really don't want to read all that again, and you probably don't want to hear me read it all again. No. Okay, so all of those in favor of Article 4 as it was, do you wish to have additional discussion? Yes, okay.
Henry Ahern from Plymouth, and I just had a couple questions. The $76,000 that's coming out of this, I take it is the $74,000, the government buildings, $74,000, and then I was wondering what the other was. That's going to be replaced by the little brochure that we did.
I don't know.
That's not it. I was just wondering what was going to reduce this article by the $76,646.
Floor will be reduced by 76. Yeah. That's brochure.
I think we're playing Stump the Chump.
reserve looking up the answer? Oh, okay. Oh, Ann's looking at it. Gotcha. That's the answer would be yes. Passes one.
Do you have the list for the Budget Committee? Does somebody there have it? Finance is looking it up, okay.
So the 76,000 that it's going to be reduced by is 25,000 from the general government buildings, which is for town hall maintenance, building maintenance, and it is the last payment of the landfill closure, which is 51,646, I think it was. So that's where the 76 comes in. If the bond passes, those things will be part of the bond.
Okay. Does that answer your question, Mr. Ahern? Is there any other discussion? Are you ready for the question? The question is, are you in favor of Article 4? All those will signify by raising their card and say aye. Aye. Contrary-minded, nay. It's a vote in the affirmative, and I so declare it. Which brings us to Article 5. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate a sum of $98,789 for fiscal year 16-17 welfare assistance as follows. Welfare officer, $23,789. Welfare vendor payment, $75,000. The selectmen recommend this. Budget Committee? Budget Committee recommends. Do I have a motion? Is there a second? Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Are you ready for the question? All those in favor will signify by raising their card and saying aye. Aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Just vote in the affirmative, and I so declare it. Which brings us to Article 6. Article 6, Collective Bargaining Agreement. To see if the town will vote to approve cost items included in the collective bargaining agreement reached between the Board of Selectmen and the AFSME Council 93, which calls for the following estimated increases in salaries and benefits for the current staffing level for police and fire employees. Fiscal year 16, police $38,805.90, fire $27,829.07 for a total of $66,634.98. Excuse me. Fiscal year 17, police $39,887.58, fire $28,861.44 for a total of $68,749.03, and fiscal year 2018, police $41,751.71, fire $167.29 for a total of $71,919. And further, to raise an appropriate amount of $66,634.98 for the fiscal year 16-17, such sums representing the additional cost attributed to the increase in salaries and benefits required by the new agreement over those that would have been paid at current staffing levels. The board recommends. How about the Budget Committee? Okay, is there discussion? Yeah, yes. Can I have it moved? I'm sorry. Thank you. Thank you, Dave. Moved, and is there a second? Okay, Mr. Houle.
Question, excuse me. Question to the Select Board. It says fiscal year 16, 17, and 18. Is this first line going to cover fiscal year 16, 17?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, that was a misprint, and I read it correctly. When I read it, I said fiscal year 16, 17, fiscal year 17, 18, and fiscal year 18, 19.
Thank you. I would like to request a ballot vote on this contract. Again, the percentages of increase represented in the contract, in my judgment, is excessive.
5 other people willing to ask for a secret ballot. I have 2. I have 3. I have a total of 4. Now I have a total of 5. We will do this by secret ballot. Okay? So get out your little ballots. Yes, oh yeah, we still have some discussion. Go ahead.
I came here tonight thinking the raise was around 9%, but after talking with the police chief and the finance officer, I think he said it was more like 3%. How much is the raise?
3%.
Thank you.
It's 3%. Okay? All right. Is it each year 3% is the question? Each year 3%, yes. Any other discussion? Yes, please. I'll know your name by the end of the night, I promise.
Mark Rothier, 50 Russell Street. I have a question for the Chief of Police, if I may. Sir, it's my understanding that based on this hourly rates of your deputies, we get a new, I guess, employee in. The town spends the money to send them through, I guess, the
Police Academy.
the training police academy. They give us 3 years of service for that. But a lot of the different towns that are in our area pay more hourly rates. So as soon as that 3 years is up, we lose them. And we have to go through the process all over again. It seems to me that if we spent a little more money on an hourly rate, we wouldn't have to pay for the academy every 3 years for a new employee. And we could also have some longevity of our officers who get to know the town. I think that's worth a little bit of extra money on an hourly rate to keep these officers.
I would agree with you on that.
Okay. That's all I have.
Okay?
Thank you.
All right. Any other discussion? Are you ready for the question? Okay, so if everybody's ready for the question, I'm going to go to ballot box number 2. And in ballot box number 2, I will show you that it is in fact empty, and I will lock it. We will do a quick vote and a quick count. And after you vote, I want to move right along to the next article, and I'll announce the results because I'll have the supervisors count them as soon as everybody has had a chance to vote. Okay? So, again, we're going to use the pink, or cherry is actually the correct color of that, by the way. That is cherry, having been in the paper business for many years. You rip it in half and put in the way you wish to vote.
No, this one doesn't have to stay open for an hour, does it? Yeah, you're probably looking at 23, 24. Yeah. And I mean, you hit the nail right on the head. Pay these guys a lot more money. Yeah, totally agree. Yeah. 5 years, yeah. Yeah. Got it. At the high school? That's right, yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, yeah. Sometimes less is more. Yeah.
So you just, there's the scrub bar at the thing, so say you wanted to go to this point, you just click right here. Yeah, you can't really, like, it's not like a tape. You can't use the double arrow.
Okay, if everybody would please make their way to the ballot box so that we can move on. Is there anybody wishing to vote who has not put their ballot in yet? Going once. Going twice. All right, supervisors. Is there anybody wishing to vote who has not already done so? All right, then I declare the polls closed on Article 6. I'll let the supervisors count the ballots. Go ahead and open it, ladies. And we'll move on to Article 7, and they'll tell us the results of Article 6 in a minute. Article 7, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate a sum of $1,895,885 for fiscal year 16-17 police safety, police, and parking as follows. Police Department, $1,350,416. Parking, $133,627, and dispatch, $411,842. This amount will be offset by an amount of $67,000 from the parking fund. The selectmen recommend this. How about the Budget Committee? Budget Committee recommends passage. Can I have a motion? Is there a second? Okay, it's moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Are you ready for the question? The question is to see is that the town will vote to raise and appropriate a sum of $1,895,885 for fiscal year 16-17 public safety, police, and parking as follows. Yes.
Does this number include previous article?
There is nothing listed in here from the previous article. Is that correct, Board?
Yes.
That is correct. All right. All those in favor will signify by saying aye. Contrary-minded, nay. So vote in the affirmative, and I so declare it. Article 8, see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate a sum of $1,379,881 for fiscal year 16-17 public safety, fire ambulance as follows. Fire Department, $1,249,606. Ambulance, $130,275. This is recommended by the Selectmen. House B, say the Budget Committee. Budget Committee recommends. Is there a motion? Is there a second? Is there any discussion? Yes, go ahead. Ask it now before I
I got just a question. This number includes the salaries in the budget?
No.
No.
Oh, it does
Salaries
not.
are separate.
Oh, okay.
The increase in salaries are separate. Is that the correct answer to that question? The increase in salaries are separate from that. The regular salaries are in there, but the increase in salaries are not. Okay, any other discussion? Are you ready for the question? And the question is to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate $1,379,881 for the fiscal year 16-17 public safety, fire, and ambulance. All those in favor will raise their hand and signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary-minded, nay. So vote in the affirmative, and I so declare it.
Mr. Moderator?
Yes, sir.
I make a motion to restrict reconsideration of warrant articles 4 through 8.
I cannot do that until I have the results of Article 6. Oh. I hopefully will have that information in less than 30 seconds. If I take a second and walk over here and stroll, I know they'll have it for me by the time I get there.
Please tell us that we what's the deal about it? What's the deal about it? We don't have, he misspoke.
Results
It's not a ballot vote.
Yes, 15 no, Article 6 passes. So now I will entertain your motion to restrict consideration on Articles 4 through, what did you say? 4 through 8. It has been moved and seconded. Anybody who does not understand what this means, it means that we cannot revisit these articles later tonight. If there is a motion to reconsider all of these, you would have to come back at another meeting with a time and date certain to reopen any of these issues. Other than that, they're closed and done for the year. Yes? We just got the results. That was what I just announced. When I was walking across, I'm sorry, I should have said it when I got to the microphone. Article 6 passes by 76 yes and 15 no. No, that's Articles. Article 3 cannot be even opened for another 13 minutes. And in 13 minutes, we will get the results of that. But this was for Article 4 through Article 8. Thank you for asking that question. All right, which brings us to Article 9, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate a sum of $1,036,056 fiscal year 16-17 for the Highway Department as follows. Highway Department, $981,056, street lining, $55,000. And authorize the withdrawal of $15,000 to offset. Yes. I'm sorry. I apologize. That was to limit reconsideration on those articles. All those in favor of limiting reconsideration, raise your card. And, okay, contrary-minded, nay. I'm racing here. I'm getting ahead of myself. I was having so much fun reading that, too. Now I have to read it again. All right, so now Article 9, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate a sum of $1,036,056 for fiscal year 16-17 for the Highway Department as follows. Highway Department, $981,056, street lighting, $55,000. And authorize the withdrawal of $15,000 to offset 4312, TAC 932, TAC 01, sidewalk repair replacement from the Motor Vehicles Capital Reserve Fund established for this purpose, and further authorize the withdrawal of $40,000 to offset 4312, TAC 931, TAC 00 road construction from the Motor Vehicle Capital Reserve Fund established for this purpose. If Article 3 passes, warrant Article 9 will be reduced by $40,000. This is recommended by the Selectmen. How say the Budget Committee? Do I have a motion? It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Okay, no discussion being shown. Then we will vote on the Article 9 to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate a sum of $1,036,056 fiscal year 16-17 for Highway Department. All those in favor will signify by raising the card and saying aye. Aye. Contrary-minded, nay. It's a vote in the affirmative, and I so declare it. Which brings us to Article 10, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate a sum of $422,259 for fiscal year 16-17 for sanitation as follows. Recycling solid waste disposal, $418,959. Pemmy Baker solid waste district dues, $3,300. If warrant Article 3 passes, the warrant article will be reduced by $18,000. The board recommends this. How say the Budget Committee? Is there a motion? Is there a second? Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Yes, Mr. Tucker.
I would just like to ask, how is the recycling business? How much money did we bring in last year?
$71,166. $71,000.
$71,166.
Thank you. Is that better or worse than it's historically been?
Worse.
Worse. Prices are down on all of that. Yes, sir.
Phil Lamoureux, Hilltop Drive. What would tipping fees have been on that weight if it were thrown away as trash? Oh, that was the revenue from recycling.
Right.
You want to know how much got diverted?
No, how much tipping fees would have been paid on that if it wasn't
What's the other half of
recycled?
that equation?
You'd
Do you
be
know
up
what the weight was?
over $200,000.
So, okay.
Yep.
So that's the other half of that.
Yep.
Yeah, that's the other important part of that. That's a correct statement. Yep. Any other discussion? Are you ready for the question? The question is to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate a sum of $422,259 for the fiscal year 16-17 sanitation. All those in favor will signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary-minded, nay. It's a vote in the affirmative, and I so declare it. Article 11, see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate a sum of $1,130,936 for fiscal year 16-17 for the department operations as follows. Park and Recreation, $663,999. Library, $435,837. Patriotic Purposes, $4,000. Band Concert, $6,000. Town Common Traffic Island, $4,000. Friends of the Arts, $100. Airport, $7,000. And Health Enforcement, $10,000. This is amount to be offset by $7,000 from the Airport Fund. The Selectmen recommend this budget. How say the Budget Committee? Budget Committee recommends. Do I have a motion? Do I have a second? Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Yes, Mr. Ahern.
Is there any reduction in this article? And I noticed there's a lot of Parks and Rec on the sheet from Article 3.
No.
No. In a word, no. Is there any other discussion? Are you ready for the question? The question is to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate a sum of $1,130,936 for fiscal year 16-17 for the department operations that I listed a minute ago. All those in favor will signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary-minded, nay. It's a vote in the affirmative, and I so declare it. Article 12, to see if the town vote to raise and appropriate a sum of $11,000 for fiscal year 16-17 in capital land and improvements as follows. Landfill monitoring testing, $6,000. Conservation Commission project, $5,000. Pursuant to RSA 32:7(6), these will be non-lapsing, non-transferable appropriations and will not lapse until the earlier of 2021 or when the respective project purchase is complete. The board recommends this. How say the Budget Committee? Is there a motion? Is there a second? Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? It reminds me of the gas. Down on the flats, down on the line. How many years did we do that gas? That gas leak. All right. All those in favor of Article 12, as I read it, will signify by saying aye and raising their card. Contrary-minded, nay. It's the vote in affirmative, and I so declare it.
Mr. Moderator.
Yes.
I make a motion to restrict reconsideration of warrant articles 9 through 12.
There is a motion and second to restrict reconsideration of Articles 9 through 12. Any discussion? Okay. All those in favor of restricting consideration, raise your hand and vote aye. Aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Vote in the affirmative, and I so declare it. Article 13, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate a sum of $250,000 to fund the following capital item. Road improvement construction, $250,000. Pursuant to RSA 32:7(6), these will be non-lapsing, non-refundable appropriations and will not lapse until the project or purchase is complete or in 5 years, whichever is less. If warrant Article 3 passes, warrant Article 13 will be null and void. And the selectmen recommend this. How does the Budget Committee feel? Budget Committee recommends. Can I have a motion? Is there a second? Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Okay, then we'll vote. Article 13, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate a sum of $250,000 to fund the following capital items, road improvement construction, and again, this will be null and void if Article 3 passes. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary-minded, nay. The vote in the affirmative, and I so declare it. Article 14, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate a sum of $40,000 to fund the following capital item. Police building maintenance and repair and replace, $40,000. Pursuant to RSA 32:7(6), this will be a non-lapsing and non-transferable appropriation and will not lapse until the earlier of 2021 or when the respective project or purchase is complete. Again, if warrant Article 3 passes, then warrant Article 14 will be null and void. The selectmen recommend this. How say the Budget Committee? Budget Committee recommends. Can I have a motion? Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? All those in favor will signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Vote in the affirmative, and I so declare it. Just 3 more minutes, and I can open that ballot box. It'll answer a lot of questions. The anticipation. It's just like Christmas. Article 15, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate a sum of $41,854 for a fund fiscal year 16-17 payment 3 of a 3-year lease and purchase agreement for the purchase of 3 police cruisers. This lease agreement contains non-appropriation clause. A majority vote is required. The selectmen recommend this, and the Budget Committee, they concur and recommend. Can I have a motion? Is there a second? Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Are you ready for the question? And the question is to see if the town, excuse me, vote to raise and appropriate a sum of $41,854 to fund the fiscal year 16-17 payment 3 of a 3-year lease and purchase agreement for the purchase of 3 police cruisers. All those in favor will signify by saying aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Vote in the affirmative, and I so declare it. And if I wander over there, I don't know, if I can get another article in, I'll try one more. All right. Article 16, to see if the town will vote to establish the following capital reserve fund under the provisions of RSA 35:1 for the following purpose, and to raise and appropriate the respective sum of $41,666 to be placed in said fund, and further to designate the Board of Selectmen as agents to expend from this fund. This is a fire tower truck replacement, CR, $41,666. The Selectmen recommend this. The Budget Committee? They recommend. Can I have a motion? Is there a second? Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary-minded, nay.
Mr. Moderator.
Yes.
I make a motion to restrict reconsideration of warrant articles 13 through 15.
How about 16?
No, you got 16.
How about 16? Neil, how about through 16?
Okay, add 16.
Yeah, okay. There's a motion. Do I have a second? Moved and seconded to restrict consideration on Articles 13 through 16. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Now I'm going to wander over here and open the ballot box. And I'll have my supervisors count.
John, I'm going to give the complicated reconciliation. Article 3 and also Articles. Now you get Article 17. Yeah, right. You want the mic? I guess it would be on record if it's got the mic on there too.
All right. Well, that's being counted. Let's move on to Article 17. Article 17, to see if the town will vote to establish the following capital reserve fund under the provisions of RSA 35:1 for the following purpose, and to raise and appropriate the respective sum of $10,384 to be placed in said fund, and to further designate the Board of Selectmen and agents to expend from this fund. It's Fire Engine 4 Replacement, CR, $10,384. The board recommends this. How say the Budget Committee? Budget Committee recommends. Moved, seconded. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Vote in the affirmative, and I so declare it. Article 19, to see if the town to vote to change the purpose of the existing fire 2006 Ambulance Replacement Fund to Ambulance Replacement Fund. And it's a 2/3 vote required.
You missed 18.
18, I'm sorry. I was going to say, I was looking at it saying I didn't read the right one. How about Article 18, to see if the town will vote to change the purpose of the existing MAC Fire Truck Fund to the Fire Engine 3 Replacement Capital Reserve Fund, and to raise and appropriate $39,239 to be placed in the said fund, and further designate the Board of Selectmen or as agents to expend from this fund. A 2/3 vote is required. The Selectmen recommend. Budget Committee? Okay. Moved and seconded. Now, we can have a vote where we don't have to count everybody in 2/3 if I have an opinion that there's well over 2/3 of the people that vote in favor of this. So we'll try that first. If that doesn't work, then we will have an actual counting standing vote. Okay? All those in favor of Article 18? Is there any discussion first? Okay, all of those in favor of Article 18, please raise your card and say yes.
Yes.
Anybody opposed? The vote was unanimous. That is an easy 2/3. I like easy 2/3. Article 19, I'll try this one now. I know. It's the results of the last vote, but it doesn't help us anymore. To see if the town will vote to change the purpose of the existing fire ambulance replacement fund to ambulance replacement fund. And this is a 2/3 vote required. This is a non-money article. The board recommends it. Okay, this is the same type of thing as the other one. Is there any discussion? All right. Again, all those in favor signify by saying yes. Oh, yeah. We ought to move it. Move it and second it. Anybody moved? Anybody second it? All right. All those in favor now. Any opposed? Again, it is unanimous. So Article 20, to see if the town will vote to establish.
Mr. Moderator?
Yes.
I make a motion to restrict reconsideration of warrant Articles 17 through 19.
You just don't want me to get through this, do you? There is a motion on the floor. Do I have a second? To restrict reconsideration of Articles 17 through 19. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Vote in the affirmative, and I so declare it. The results of Article 3 is 90 yes, 8 no. Article 3 passes, and I so declare it. So now, I will do Article 20, to see if the town will vote to establish the Conservation Commission Capital Reserve Funds under provision of RSA 31:1 for the following purposes, and to raise and appropriate the respective sum totaling $5,000 to be placed in said fund, and further to designate the Board of Selectmen as agents to expend from the fund. Conservation Commission projects, $5,000. The Select Board recommends. How say the Budget Committee? Budget Committee recommends. Can I have a motion? Is there a second? Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Are you ready for the question? And the question is to see if the town will vote to establish the Conservation Commission Capital Reserve Fund under the provisions of RSA 35:1 for the following purposes, and to raise and appropriate the respective sum of $35,000. All those in favor will signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary-minded, nay. To vote in the affirmative, and I so declare it. Yes. What number did I get mixed up? 5,000, I said. Yeah, I'm sorry. I apologize. Let's do a revote on that, as it should be read correctly, to see if the town will vote to establish the Conservation Commission Capital Reserve Funds under the provisions of RSA 35:1 for the following purpose, to raise and appropriate the respective sum of $5,000. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Vote in the affirmative, and I so declare it. Article 21, to see if the town will vote to add to the existing capital reserve funds under the provisions of RSA 35:1 for the following purposes, and to raise and appropriate the respective sums totaling $138,500 to be placed in said funds. Recycling equipment, ground building maintenance, $6,000. Fox Pond Park maintenance, repair, replacement, rebuild, $5,000. Dispatch equipment reserve, $10,000. Town reval, $20,000. Material handling equipment, highway, $25,000. Building, police maintenance, repair, replace, $25,000. Public TV, or Pemmy Baker TV, equipment and facilities, $5,000. Fire replacement of breathing apparatus, $7,500. And if warrant article, it did pass, so this will be reduced by $25,000. I did. $35,000. $35,000 for highway heavy equipment. And this will be reduced by $25,000. And it did pass, so we should take the $25,000 out first. Where does the $25,000 come out? Okay? She said it's for the police, building, police, maintenance, repair, replace. The $25,000 that will come out will be from that line. So the new amount will be $113,500. Yes. Article 3 passed. The vote was 90 to 8. 90 votes to 8 is well over two-thirds. No, 8. I'm sorry. Yeah. So I guess the question is, as long as Article 3 passed, we should take the $25,000 out and entertain an amendment to amend that article to take the $25,000 out. I would love to. Excuse me? Pass it the way it is and we don't have to worry about it? If you're willing to do that, I am. Okay? So, how say the Budget Committee? Okay, move the original motion. Second? Okay, any discussion? Yes, Patrice?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I'm just wondering, when I see all our fire equipment that's in here, if it brings to mind the LSSA, and I wondered if anybody could just address or let us know how much the Life Safety Service Agreement is, it brought us this year, and also how it's working, and if any amendments will be expected. I'm sorry, Paul, how much? 630. Okay, all right, that's great. 2-year extension. Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion? Are you ready for the question? The question is, is the town to vote to add to the existing capital reserve funds under provisions of RSA 35:1 for the following purpose: raise and appropriate a respective sum totaling $138,500. All those in favor will signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Vote in the affirmative, and I so declare it. Article 22, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate a sum of $136,972 to fund payment of number 6 of the library expansion project. The board recommends. Budget Committee recommends. Any put it on the floor on a motion? Second? Discussion? Ready for the question? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Vote in the affirmative, and I so declare it. Article 23, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate a sum of $96,526 for the following listed agencies: Transport Central, $500. Animal Control Agreement with the Humane Society, $6,500. Regional Planning Commission dues, $4,689. Baker River Watershed, $300. Pemmy Baker Local Advisory Committee, $250. Pemmy Baker Community Health Agency, $15,000. Grafton County City Citizens, $15,000. Tri-County Community Action, $7,646. Voices Against Violence, $4,000. Red Cross, $3,141. Pemmy Youth Center, $8,000. Genesis Lakes Region Mental Health, $7,500. Katie, $8,000. CASA, Court-Appointed Child Advocates, $1,000. Bridge House, $13,000. Conservation Commission, $2,000. This is recommended by the board. How say the Budget Committee? Is there a motion on the floor? Moved. Is there a second? Any discussion? Yes, Mr. Moorhead. What is Transportation Central? Yeah? Yep. Yeah, can you use the microphone, please?
Transportation Central, I'm on the board of Pemmy Youth Center, and we partner with them quite often. Transportation Central is
Can you use talking to the mic? Yeah.
Is a nonprofit organization that assists low-income and elderly individuals getting to doctor's appointments, hospital visits, things of that sort. So they own a few different vans and things, and they work to make sure that the area residents get to where they need to be.
Okay? Is there any other discussion? Are you ready for the question? And the question is to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate a sum of $96,526 for the below-listed agencies that we just discussed. All those in favor will signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary-minded, nay. The vote in the affirmative, and I so declare it.
Mr. Moderator.
Yes.
I make a motion to restrict reconsideration of warrant Articles 3 as well as Articles 20 through 23.
There is a motion to restrict consideration on Article 3 and 20, what was it?
20 through 23.
20 through 23. And it's been moved. Is there a second? Okay. All those in favor of restricting reconsideration on those articles? Contrary-minded, nay. Vote in the affirmative, I so declare it. And it brings us to transact any other business that may legally come before this meeting. I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Hold it, yes. A question? I'll try to entertain. Go ahead.
Article 3, which I realize has passed. If I could make a suggestion, I think that the brochure was very clear about priorities of projects, and I'm hoping that in next year's report there will also be a clear accountability of what was done with the monies from the bond as a separate report and not buried in the budgets of the various departments.
Okay.
So is that a possibility, is my question.
Any other further business to come before this meeting? I will entertain a motion to adjourn. All right, we stand adjourned. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.